So, you've successfully gotten your hands on an American ITIN, the identification numbers that allows any non-US citizen to access American credit, potentially even an American Amex. And so you're wondering, what's next? Because most non-US citizens believe that getting an ITIN is the finish line. It's like saying you've won the race when you've only just qualified to run. That's why in this video, I'm going to give you the full guide on how you can get access to American credit cards without living in the US, without creating fake companies or changing any citizenships. And guys, trust me when I tell you that this video that you're about to watch is 10 times better than any paid information that you can get your hands on the internet. And I know that because as someone that's a non-US citizen myself, who's not only gotten access to multiple US credit cards, but also spent thousands of dollars learning from 8 and 9 figure entrepreneurs about the credit system. So if you really want to get results, watch this video until the end. You see, after getting my hands on multiple US credit cards myself, I keep seeing it every day. A non-US citizen gets their hands on their ITIN. It is this number over here that I got from the IRS, and they rush straight to apply for their first US credit card. And you know what happens to 99% of those non-US residents? Rejections. The reason this keeps happening to the majority of non-US residents is because getting an ITIN is just your first step. What matters is establishing your US credit identity the right way. Because an ITIN is just a tax number. You're creating a completely new financial identity in the most powerful financial credit system in the world. And if you don't know, the credit bureaus are the gatekeepers. They will decide if you deserve premium US credit cards, business funding at 0% interest, 6-figure credit lines, or if you should be shut out completely. And if you don't set this identity correctly, you'll be faced rejection after rejection after rejection. And maybe you might even start to believe that American credit cards are only just for US citizens. Even after 5+ years of business experience at a young age, I've seen brilliant entrepreneurs with successful companies get rejected for just basic American credit cards because they skip these critical steps. And if you're watching this video, I'm sure you don't want this to happen to you, right? So I've broken it down into 3 phases. So phase 1 is establishing your US credit identity while waiting for your ITIN. The beautiful thing is that most non-US residents or citizens can start this process while waiting for your ITIN. So the first thing that you need to do is lock down your US residential address. Not a PO box, not a virtual mailbox, a real residential address that passes the bank's verification system. Now, why is this important? The answer is actually pretty simple. You see, the American banks use sophisticated address verification systems, and they will cross-reference your address with the utility databases, postal code records. In fact, this is exactly why me and my team, we actually purchase real physical locations for our private clients. Because not only that gives them certainty when actually getting approved for credit applications, but it also sets a strong foundation in the American financial system. And of course, that doesn't only include credit, but that also takes into account payment processing, that takes into account US banking and whatnot. So I want you to keep this in mind. The banks have blacklists, and only people with the right connections know what's on them. It's just another way of saying that you can't just buy a $10 or $20 virtual mailbox and expect it to work with the big 5 banks in the USA. So if your address doesn't check out, you'll get declined before they even look at your income. And here's a bonus way of increasing your chances of getting approved for US credit. You want to secure a US phone number, not just any Google voice number. You need an actual carrier-based phone number that actually checks out in the telecoms database. The reality is, the credit system is looking for consistency. Your name, your address, and your phone number. It needs to paint a picture for someone who's integrated in the US financial system. So the next logical move is actually to establish your banking relationships and open up bank accounts. And this is actually what most non-US citizens do not do. They think that your credit score is everything. But here's something that's equally as important, which is your banking score. In fact, hardly anybody talks about this. Your banking score tracks your financial relationship between the financial institutions. For example, how long have you had your accounts open? Do you have any history of overdrafts? Here's what I usually tell my private clients to do. I help them open a US bank account, a business and a personal bank account while waiting for their ITIN. I guide my private clients to open up US bank accounts that are known to be friendly to ITIN holders. And if you don't know exactly how to open up a personal US bank account remotely, I actually made a video on this, which I'll leave in the description. And in that video, I'll actually walk through the step-by-step process on how you can actually open up a US personal bank account remotely, even if you do not live in the US. Because the reality is, most non-US citizens think that they need an ITIN before opening up their bank accounts. But that's not true at all. You can get this process started way earlier. But here's something to keep in mind. Don't just open an account and let it just sit empty. You need to show banking activity, deposit money, keep decent balances, and maybe even set up a small recurring balance transfer between accounts. Think of it like this: banks talk to each other more than you even realize. So when you apply for US credit cards, they see your entire banking history. So a strong banking relationship, which is that banking score, means easier credit card approvals. And now let's move on to phase 3, which is strategic credit building. Now comes the exciting part: your first credit applications. But listen carefully, your first credit applications sets the tone of everything that follows. Start with cards from banks that you already have a relationship with. This is called the relationship strategy, and it dramatically increases your chances of higher approvals. Now, I'm going to be transparent with you. Your first credit card approval is not going to be $100,000 at 0% interest. And you're not going to get those premium American credit cards yet. You want something simple that will get you in that American financial system. Maybe a secured credit card or like a basic rewards credit card. So instead of using your local banks or credit cards that you've got in your home country, start using those American credit cards and process transactions with those newly approved cards. Now, here's what happens next that nobody tells you about. Once you get that first approval, the credit bureaus will actually start building up your profile. Every account you keep in good standings adds to your credit worthiness. And after 3 to 6 months of responsible credit card use, that's when you start applying for premium American credit cards like the Chase Sapphire Reserve or the American Express Platinum. The cards that give you airport lounge access and massive sign-up bonuses. How cool is that? Just imagine, you walk into any bank in America and you get treated like a VIP client. Your credit score is over 750 and you have multiple premium US credit cards and the banks are competing for your business, regardless of the fact that you don't even live in the US. And trust me, after having my credit cards for 6 months, I got offer after offer after offer. In fact, the banks will even insist to give you higher credit limits. You're booking first class flights with points instead of cash. Yup, that's right, an $8,000 business class flight to Tokyo? Just pay $200 in taxes and fees. Your business now has access to 6 figures in 0% interest, which by the way, no other country offers. And when you need capital for expansion in your business, you're not begging the banks for loans. You're choosing between multiple different offers. This isn't fantasy. This is what happens when you establish your US financial identity the right way from the beginning. Now, you can try to take shortcuts and skip steps, but after working with hundreds of active non-US business owners and helping them get approved for premium US credit cards within just a few months, I've seen exactly what happens. The client follows the exact system to get approved for premium US credit cards versus the ones who try to rush the process and still are fighting for just basic credit card approvals in the USA. Success with American credit lives through the minute details. You follow these principles and credit will follow. So if you're serious about building US credit as a non-US citizen, I want to help you get this right from the start. And that's exactly why I've created a free community that helps non-US citizens do exactly that. I've broken down the steps to getting access to American credit as simple as possible. In fact, the information on getting access to American credit is always changing. That's why my team and I make sure that the information in this free credit community is always 100% up to date. And even if in 6 months from now a law passes, I'll personally make sure that the information in this community is always updated. So if you're a non-US citizen and you're looking to access the American financial system, click the link in the description and I'll see you inside. Don't spend years trying to figure this all out on your own. Get a proven roadmap that actually works. Remember, getting your ITIN is just the beginning. What you do next will determine whether you'll be sitting in first class flights or still struggling to get basic approval in 5 years' time. So the choice is yours. Choose wisely, and I'll see you on the next one.